really excited to introduce our next panel for the night. It's going to be a panel about how different kinds of angles can lead towards activism ultimately. And I'm going to let them take it away so that they can explain it far better. I'm pleased to introduce photojournalist Chen Schimmel, artist Ron Agam, and activist and creator Daniel Braun, who will be interviewed by Jerusalem Post economic correspondent Eve Young.
Hi guys, I'm so excited for this panel with people who've been so pivotal in shaping public opinion about Israel. So exciting. So I think we've all seen Chen Schimmel's beautiful, incredible, moving photographs around the hall, right? Yeah, we've seen the photographs? Woo! I think so, and they're incredibly touching, moving, and in your photojournalism and in your new book, October 7th, Bearing Witness, you have really documented the war and its impact on people. Your photographs have shed light on what's been going on and helped inform public opinion. So tell us what's most important to you in your work, what motivates your work, what makes you go out there and take photos of some of, I think, the most horrifying things that we've experienced.
Thank you, Eve. So for me, what was most important since October 7th was to document the raw and true story of what our people have been and are still going through. And that is the pain, it's the mourning, and it's the darkness. But it's also through that the hope and the courage and the resilience. And for me, this book, it's a historical document, but more than that, it's a promise. And it's a promise to never forget and to never deny the events that happened on October 7th. And also to never forget those that we've lost. And to also promise to never, also to promise to still fight for those that remain and for those that we need to bring home.
So you've touched on kind of how heartbreaking some of the photos you've taken and some of the subjects that you've photographed are. Can you tell us, is photographing, is it a buffer for you? Behind the lens, are you able to disconnect? Or are there times when you're photographing something truly so painful, like the photos that we've seen here, that it's really impossible to disconnect from your subject's pain?
It's a very good question. The lens does create some sort of distance, but I find it very difficult not to connect to my subjects, especially when they are so sensitive. A memory that has definitely left its mark on me was actually this time last year. It was during Hanukkah when I was photographing and interviewing hostage families together with the Post and for the Post. And I was photographing the mother of Eden Zacharia. Eden was taken from the Nova Festival. She was 28. And I was photographing her mother, and once I had finished, I was about to leave. And before leaving, she turned to me and she asked me if I could stay for a cup of tea. So I said, of course. I put my camera down, I put it to the side, and we sat on the couch. She made me a fresh cup of mint tea, and we started talking about everything, but also about nothing. And she started to play with my hair. And I think that in that moment, she really just missed her daughter.
Wow.
And then a silence fell between us, and she said to me, Chen, I pray for a miracle. I pray that on the last night of Hanukkah, my Eden returns home. The last night of Hanukkah is also her birthday, and that would be the greatest gift. 4 days later, I received a message from Eden's mother. She said, there is no miracle. Oh. My Eden is coming home, but she's not coming home alive. The IDF found her body, and they brought it back to Israel, and Eden was buried. On the last night of Hanukkah, she was buried on her birthday.
That's so painful, and thank you for your work documenting that. You're right, it's so important that we don't forget and that we don't allow people to deny that these atrocities happened. Daniel, I would love to go to you. Hello, thank you for being here. So other than being a pro-Israel force on social media, you're also the creative director of Let's Do Something, founded in memory of David Newman. Applause for Let's Do Something. Let's do something. Founded in memory of David Newman, slain at the Nova Music House Festival. Tell us how the organization combines online and real-world activism.
Sure. So first of all, I just want to say thank you everyone for being here, for listening. And I know everyone's tired, but let's listen. Let's listen a second because this story is very important and heavy, okay? Actually, a year ago today, these two young gentlemen sitting in the front here, Moshe Shir and Bucky Apostolf, they messaged me.
Give us a wave. Hi, guys.
Can you guys stand a second and just give them a round of applause for what you're about to hear? Thank you. Thank you. 1 year ago today, they messaged me and told me their story. And I have to sit here today and tell you their story because this is what it's all about. So on October 6th, a very handsome man named David Newman asked Bucky to borrow his car because he was going down to the Nova Music Festival. The morning of October 7th, we all woke up to the sounds of rockets, to graphic images on our phone, and the first thing that these two guys did, they grabbed 2 pistols, bulletproof vests, and went down south to try and save David's life.
Wow.
Okay? After being down south on October 7th and October 8th, unfortunately, they weren't able to save David's life. David was murdered in cold blood by Hamas terrorists. He was standing outside of a dumpster, and he hid 16 people in the dumpster, including his girlfriend, Noam. And a terrorist in flip-flops came up to David, shot him point blank in the chest, got up on the dumpster, and sprayed the entire dumpster out, killing 13 out of 16 people, and David's girlfriend, Noam, survived after being shot in the hip. Now, after hearing that news and returning home on October 8th, Bucky and Moshe and the rest of the boys in the organization, they felt helpless. They felt hopeless. They didn't know what to do. And instead of sitting around and doing nothing, they opened a WhatsApp group called Let's Do Something, okay? And by the next day, they organized a cargo El Al plane that landed in Israel with 20,000 pounds of equipment for the IDF and humanitarian aid for refugees that were displaced inside our country. 1 plane turned into 5. Thank you. 1 plane turned into 5. 5 planes turned into 10. And what started off as an overnight project turned into a full-blown organization.
I think that's so incredible, and I think it's incredible. The organization also has a really, really extensive online presence.
Correct.
And I love the combination of online work as well as kind of real-world advocacy.
Yes.
We're so short on time.
I know.
I'm going to come back to you with another question.
Sure. You want me to drop it in a sentence? We
Go
have
for
3
it.
pillars in our organization. The first pillar is defense. The second pillar is healing. The third pillar is advocacy. In defense, we do R&D for the army. In healing, we just opened a PTSD center in Thailand to help heal Nova survivors, refugees, and reservists and bring them back home to Israel. And in advocacy, we do online content showing the pro-Israel view, exposing anti-Semitism, and we teach students how to create online content that is pro-Israel
I love that. I
content.
love the combination of kind of
Thank you.
doing and also showing.
Thank you.
Ron, until now on this panel, we've talked about kind of advocacy that's aiming for a far reach. We've talked about advocacy where people are trying to reach as many people as possible, show them photos and evidence. Your advocacy for Israel is much more focused. A lot of your advocacy is about reaching one influential person. Can you tell us an example of how this works? Maybe something from your involvement in the Abraham Accords?
With the Abraham Accord, something quite extraordinary happened. The leadership of the Jewish community was going to Saudi to meet with the king, the crown prince, his brother, who is the second man for defense in Saudi, and they wanted gifts for these very influential people. And I gave them an artwork that was very meaningful. 2 weeks later, I received a phone call from Malcolm Online. I'm sure you all know him. And Malcolm was trembling while he was talking to me. And he said, when I gave you artwork to the Crown Prince, he started screaming and yelling that he has so much emotion he wanted it to be hanged immediately on the wall of his office. Now, I'm saying that because when you have a man of that importance that receives a gift from the Jewish leadership in America, and he acts like that, it was a very big success for the delegation. And this is something that I remember because I was asked many times, you know, to continue this kind of contribution. And when you touch one single individual in a moment like that, it leaves a mark. And that mark, we can still see what it means.
I love that. I love that we've seen the whole gamut on this panel of advocacy, from kind of media to online and real-world donations to just touching a single person with something beautiful like art and emotion. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Can I address one more thing before we end? It'll take 10 seconds. I know we're out of time, but it'll take 10 seconds.
Let's go, 10 seconds.
Okay, cool, perfect. So looking around the room tonight, I see two types of people. On the one hand, I see people that have been battling this fight for decades and I'm sorry, that have been battling this fight for decades, and they are doing that through the traditional ways of philanthropy and organizations in the Jewish world. On the other hand, I see young professionals like myself that are fighting and using their voice on social media. But in order to win this war, we need to combine the two. And that is exactly what Let's Do Something is doing. And if you want to be a part of our fight, please come find myself, come find Bucky, or come find Moshe, and together we can really do something and make a difference.
And I think that you're highlighting something so important, right? That it takes all kinds of activism, whether individual, whether combination, or whether kind of spreading the word to the masses. Thank you all so much for joining us.